Okay, able to see the screen now. Today I'm talking about vascular rings and slings. What is a vascular ring? Vascular ring is defined as presence of vascular structures that completely surround trachea and esophagus. Now, vascular ring is also one of the, or vascular rings are also a part of gamut of aortic arch anomalies. What I'll just talk a little about normal embryology of the vascular system. This is the trunco-aortic sac and our truncus arteriosus and aortic sac. This is also can also be called ventral aorta, and this is the dorsal aorta. This entire thing is the dorsal aorta. This is the left dorsal aorta and this is the right dorsal aorta. This is the esophagus here. On viewing from above, this is the esophagus, left dorsal aorta, right dorsal aorta, ventral aorta. Now this ventral aorta is connected to the dorsal aorta on both sides via 3 aortic arches. After regression of, we know, 5th aortic arch, 1st and 2nd aortic arches give rise to very small arteries in the neck. But these 3 arches form the basis of formation of aorta and its major branches. So
record this.
So these 3 arches connect the ventral aorta to the dorsal aorta. This is the 3rd arch on both sides. This is the 4th arch on both sides. This is the 6th arch on both sides. These are the 7th intersegmental arteries. This is basically the 7th cervical intersegmental artery. That is the left cervical 7th intersegmental artery and the right cervical 7th intersegmental artery. This is how it begins. Actually, in an embryo, all these structures are not present at the same time. This is just a diagrammatic representation for our better understanding. These all, whenever some process is happening in an embryo, all the other structures may not be present at that time. They actually, there is a sequence of the beginning of a structure, and then probably the structure that regresses also, and that's a sequence. Basically, it's not that all structures are seen at the same time. So now how does this start? After when these 3 arches are present, what happens next? The next thing that happens is the dorsal aorta on both sides between the 3rd and 4th aortic arches regresses. On both sides, they regress. So this frees the dorsal end of the 3rd aortic arch. This is the 3rd aortic arch, and this is the dorsal end. This is the ventral end. So the dorsal end of the 3rd aortic arch on both sides, they get freed. And then what happens is they come superiorly to produce an artery that goes to reach the circle of Willis. That is the common carotid artery. They actually come superiorly like this. I'll just show you that. This is how they come ultimately and go towards the circle of Willis. The next, and also after that, here you can see the distal dorsal aorta. This is a right dorsal aorta. The distal part of right dorsal aorta, that is after the 6th aortic arch. This is the 6th aortic arch. So after distal to the 6th aortic arch, whatever dorsal aorta was present, it regresses. So this helps in forming the left aortic arch rather than the right aortic arch. If this persists, that may lead to right aortic arch. So this is regressing. So left aortic arch is formed. Then what happens also is there is migration of this 7th, which was here, 7th intersegmental artery, a bit superiorly. So it migrates superiorly. This is a cervical, as I said, cervical 7th intersegmental artery that migrates superiorly, going closer to the 6th aortic arch. Here we can see that the 6th aortic arch, this is the proximal part of the 6th aortic arch that forms the pulmonary arteries, main pulmonary artery and right and left pulmonary arteries, and also the distal part of 6th aortic arch that forms the ductus arteriosus on both sides in an immature embryo. Then what happens? The direction of these arches changes actually. Meanwhile, all these things happen. the directions of these structures change. The seventh intersegmental artery, this is the right seventh intersegmental artery that now is attached to the ventral aorta. This is the ventral aorta via the right dorsal aorta. Right dorsal aorta, the entire right dorsal aorta doesn't regress. Only the distal right aorta, right dorsal aorta regresses. Some part of right dorsal aorta still remains. So that connects the left intersegmental artery. This is the right dorsal aorta, and some part of right fourth aortic arch. The right fourth aortic arch, whatever is left, or whatever is there, also connects the right seventh intersegmental artery to the ventral aorta. Ultimately, many these structures undergo changes in their direction, the way they are directed to form the mature vascular system. Here, as we can see, this is the right proximal sixth aortic arch. The distal sixth aortic arch that was shown like this has now regressed. So the right ductus arteriosus regresses. So only the left distal sixth aortic arch remains. So that is the ductus arteriosus. And you can see here this right seventh intersegmental artery moves more superiorly, changes its direction, connects via the remaining dorsal aorta and the fourth aortic arch to the third aortic arch. And this becomes the brachiocephalic artery. This entire thing becomes the right subclavian artery. So right subclavian artery is formed by right seventh intersegmental artery, right dorsal aorta, remnant of right dorsal aorta, and right fourth aortic arch. This third aortic arch continues as common carotid arteries on both sides. This is the ventral aorta or the trunco-aortic sac, you can say. This is the left intersegmental artery that again moves superiorly, ultimately, to join the descending aorta just distal, proximal to the ductus arteriosus. So this is the this becomes the left subclavian artery. Left subclavian artery is only formed by normally left intersegmental artery, left seventh intersegmental artery. So this is how the mature embryo looks. There is left ductus arteriosus and all the structures that we see in an adult. Postnatally. So coming to vascular ring, as I said, they are a part of aortic arch anomalies only. Coming to the most common vascular ring, that is the double aortic arch. Now, double aortic arch is, to remember it simple, there are two aortic arches on both sides. But there can be some variations. Here, what happens embryologically is, the fourth arches and the dorsal aorta, both sides remain. So, bilateral aortic arches are formed. But the descending aorta is it's always left-sided. The descending thoracic aorta which goes on the left side of the spine. And the right transverse arch, as we can see, because the descending aorta is on the left, the right transverse arch has to course posteriorly and to the leftward to join the descending aorta. So during this process, it encroaches on the esophagus. So, and in this, aortic arch branches are usually arranged symmetrically. They arise separately and they are arranged symmetrically. This is the right common carotid and right subclavian arising separately, left common carotid and left subclavian arising separately. So all four arch arteries arise separately, most commonly from the in a double aortic arch. And the ductus arteriosus most commonly is on the left. We can see here, this is the ligamentum arteriosum actually, because the ductus has closed, but it is on the left. More commonly it is on the left, but sometimes it can be on the right or bilateral also. I'll tell you the sidedness of ductus arteriosus, why it is important. Now, because there are two aortic arches, the vascular ring is formed without the help of ductus also, without the help of ligamentum arteriosum. Because there are two aortic arches, this aortic arch forms the right border, this aortic arch forms the left border. So the two aortic arches are forming the vascular ring. There is no need for ductus or ligamentum arteriosum to be present to form a vascular ring. But it can be seen on the left more commonly. Why the presence of ductus is important here is because while doing surgery, if you want to relieve the symptoms, if you want to ligate the, I mean, if you want to break open the arch, if the ductus is present on the left, you have to break open the left aortic arch as well as the left ductus. So that is why it is important to know the sidedness of ductus in a double aortic arch. After this, we also have to know one more thing, which is the dominant aortic arch. Most commonly, the dominant aortic arch is the right aortic arch that is present in. Dominant aortic arch simply means the caliber of aortic arch, which on which side is larger. So in 70 to 89% of them, right aortic arch is dominant, or the right aortic arch has a larger caliber than the left. There can also be an incomplete aortic arch. Incomplete aortic arch can be present in 33% of all double aortic arches. This is an example of incomplete aortic arch where one of the arches is atretic. Just like the ligamentum arteriosum we say, here it is basically atresia of the arch. So the left arch is atretic, but still it can compress the esophagus. Even the atretic cord, atretic arch can still compress a structure. So this still forms a vascular ring, but this arch is atretic, and this arch is the dominant, right arch is the dominant arch, and atresia of arch is almost always on the left side. It never happens on the right side in a double aortic arch. So if incomplete aortic arch is there, there can be atresia between left subclavian artery and descending aorta, or there can also be atresia between left subclavian artery and the left common carotid artery. When there is atresia between left subclavian artery and the descending aorta, the subclavian artery moves towards the common carotid artery, the origin of subclavian artery. They arise very closely, just like it is almost like a brachiocephalic artery. If the atresia is between these two, the subclavian artery arises separately, and there can be atresia of both these segments sometimes. Now, the epidemiology, it is the most common cause of a vascular ring. In various studies, it has been shown that it is the cause of a vascular double aortic arch is a cause of vascular ring in 50 to 60% of patients. Male to female ratio is 2:1. Associated CHDs in this is not very important, but if you can remember, it is associated with VSD, ASD, and TOF. Clinical features, they most commonly present in newborn period. Double aortic arches, they present in newborn period. They are mostly symptomatic. Very few remain asymptomatic until adulthood. They present with respiratory symptoms 91% of the times. So respiratory symptoms is more common than the esophageal symptoms. As you can see anteriorly, it is still formed by the two aortic arches, the origin of two aortic arches. So this compresses the trachea. And if respiratory, what can be the respiratory symptoms? Stridor or wheeze is very common in neonatal period. Stridor and wheeze can be detected. 40% of them present with GI symptoms of choking with feeds. 28% of them have cardiac symptoms because of associated congenital anomalies, maybe cyanosis or a murmur. Failure to gain weight is also seen in 5% of patients because of, again, it can be considered a GI symptom. Now, they rarely present in adulthood, but still in adults also most common cause of vascular ring is double aortic arch, even in adolescence and adulthood. There also they have respiratory more than GI symptoms. Diagnosis, a chest X-ray can give a clue where you can see bilateral tracheal indentation. Just like how we see tracheal indentation on the left in normal persons, there can be bilateral tracheal indentation, but it has low sensitivity. You may miss it. And this is a 2D echocardiogram showing a short axis view of the suprasternal notch view, where you can see this is the transverse arch, basically the transverse aorta, the transverse segment, transverse aorta part. So from superiorly, if you see, you can see two, but it's not very easy to detect on an echocardiogram sometimes. This is called a 4-vessel sign, where you can see all 4 arch vessels arising separately. Right subclavian, right common carotid, left common carotid, left subclavian. This is again a short axis view, more superiorly oriented view. So in any vascular ring and also in a double aortic arch, CT and MRI are always the first line. If you are suspecting on an X-ray and 2D echo, you may still miss the diagnosis. I mean, you may still may not find it. And if you are suspecting, there should be a high index of suspicion in neonatal period. If people, if neonates present with stridor, wheeze, respiratory symptoms as well as GI symptoms, if they have both symptoms, there should be an index of suspicion for vascular ring. Only then probably the diagnosis will be made. So CT and MRI should be done in all suspected vascular ring patients. CT and MRI are also important because it has to differentiate double aortic arch from a right aortic arch with a mirror image branching. See, right aortic arch with mirror image branching will on echo will most likely look like this only, because here the left aortic arch is atretic. You may not be able to see the left aortic arch on 2D echo. On 2D echo, atretic chords may not be seen. So you may miss, I mean, you may just think that there's a right aortic arch and with mirror image branching, because if there is a left aortic arch, especially of the segment between left subclavian artery and the descending aorta, the left subclavian artery also arises from the left common, almost very close to left common carotid artery, and so it gives an impression of left brachiocephalic artery. So this looks like a right aortic arch with mirror image branching on 2D echo. So to differentiate these two conditions also, CT helps. CT and MRI both help. So what are the points in favor of double aortic arch? Is symmetric appearance of arch branches. Again, on 2D echo, you may not see the symmetric appearance, but even if they are closely arising, CT very well shows that they are still separately arising. So this is the 4 artery sign on CT scan. Left aortic arch. If there was a left aortic arch, I mean, if there is a left aortic arch, as in a double aortic arch, it courses more posteriorly than the left brachiocephalic artery in a mirror image with right aortic arch. Okay, so left aortic arch courses more posteriorly than the left brachiocephalic artery. That is one of the clues that you can get on CT or MRI. And again, they are more likely to have a Commerell's diverticulum. Commerell's diverticulum is a large caliber vessel that suddenly tapers to give off, you forget this, that give off subclavian artery. Usually when subclavian artery is aberrant, there is a formation of something called a Commerell's diverticulum. This Commerell's diverticulum is a large caliber vessel that suddenly tapers off. If you see such an appearance on a CT or an MRI, that goes more in favor of a double aortic arch rather than a right aortic arch with a mirror image branching. Because how that Commerell's diverticulum is formed is because this ductus, wherever the ductus is in the prenatal period, because the pulmonary blood flow goes via ductus to the proximal descending aorta, from which the aberrant subclavian arteries arise, whichever side, whether right or left, whichever side the the subclavian artery arises, this ductus arteriosus promotes more blood flow towards the origin of subclavian artery, which leads to a swollen appearance of the origin of subclavian artery. So that is called a Commerell's diverticulum. It's a large carriable vessel, but the distal part of the artery is again normal. I'll come to it later because that is also one of the causes of a vascular ring. So this is about double aortic arch, and we also it may be important to remember that MRI is better to predict arch dominance. As we know, arch dominance is important to know the arch dominance. MRI is much better than CT or even cardiac cath to know the arch dominance. This has been seen in various studies. Barium esophagogram is basically of historic interest only. It's not needed now when CT and MRI are available easily. What barium esophagogram shows is bilateral rounded indentations, and because the left most commonly left is non-dominant arch, so the indentation is higher on the right side than the left. Posterior indentation at the junction of aortic arches also can be seen in a double aortic arch. So double aortic arch may have bilateral indentation on the lateral aspect, as on the right and left aspect, as well as on the posterior aspect. 2D echo is also essential to detect associated congenital anomalies because they may need to be repaired. So coming to management, surgical intervention is required in infancy only, as early as it is diagnosed, because most of them are symptomatic, most of them. And associated CHD, if it is there, then you take a sternotomy approach. If associated CHD is not there, you can just go via thoracotomy approach. Here I have written left because most of the times left has the atretic arch, if the or the non-dominant arch. If the non-dominant arch, going on the non-dominant arch and ligating it is better, because the dominant arch helps, retain the normal blood flow. So, and insertion of ductus and ligamentum arteriosus also is important to know during surgery. If the ductus is, this is one point. One is the side on which the ductus is inserted. If it is inserted, most commonly it is inserted on the non-dominant arch side. So if you are going left thoracotomy, you are going to ligate the non-dominant arch. Whether you have to ligate the ductus depends again on whether it is inserting into proximal descending aorta or distal left aortic arch. Okay, if it is inserting into the distal left aortic arch, then you have to ligate the ductus, because if it is this is the distal left aortic arch. This is somewhere near the distal left aortic arch. Okay, if it inserts like this, then it has a role in producing the vascular ring, so it needs to be ligated. But if it is going to insert somewhere in the proximal descending aorta, it does not have a role in producing the vascular ring, so you may just leave it. So it depends on where it is inserting into also. Then post-op survival at 5 years is 96%. So the prognosis is excellent after surgery. Complications that can be anticipated can be chylothorax, vocal cord paralysis, pneumonia, and the post-op course due to associated CHDs, and also aortoesophageal fistulas have been rarely seen. Stridor persists in more than 50% of cases up to 2 years after surgery, but they do not usually require reintervention. So this is about double aortic arch, which is the most common cause of a vascular ring. Now coming to the second most common cause, that is the right aortic arch with the left esophageal diverticulum of Commerell. Now what happens here is the right fourth arch and this dorsal aorta persists. So right aortic arch is formed. Left fourth arch regresses. So left aortic arch is not formed. But what remains is left distal dorsal aorta. Now because the left distal dorsal aorta is remaining patent, the left seventh intersegmental artery can still connect to the aortic arch. Okay, as we have seen, this intersegmental artery to connect to the aorta, it needs dorsal aorta and the fourth aortic arch. On the right side, everything is happening normally, like how it happens normally on the left, that is happening on the right. So right aortic arch is formed. Now what is happening on the left is fourth aortic arch regresses as it happens in any right aortic arch. But in a right aortic arch with mirror image pattern, we see that the dorsal aorta also regresses. But here this dorsal aorta is not regressing. So what this does is, this connects the left intersegmental artery to the aortic arch. So that is called the aberrant left subclavian artery arising from right aortic arch. Now right distal sixth arch also regresses. And so in these cases, left ductus arteriosus is always, is present. Even when there is a right aortic arch with mirror image pattern with no other associated cardiac abnormalities, most commonly ductus arteriosus is formed on the left side. Here also, if there is an aberrant left subclavian artery from right aortic arch, ductus arteriosus is arising from the left only. And this, as I said, this promotes growth of the, as you can see here, this thing here, this is the postnatal appearance that they have shown. There is a ligamentum arteriosum, but prenatally there will be a ductus which is connecting the pulmonary artery to the origin of aberrant left subclavian artery from the aortic arch, that promotes growth of proximal left subclavian artery, the origin of left subclavian artery, which forms the comoral diverticulum. As we can see, this is the large caliber vessel that suddenly tapers to form a smaller caliber vessel. This will become the left subclavian artery, and this is the comoral diverticulum. Now this comoral diverticulum, posteriorly, left ligamentum arteriosum on the left, right there will be a transverse arch and a transverse aorta anyway, and anteriorly there will be the ascending aorta. So all these form a vascular ring. This is the second most common cause of vascular ring. If there is concurrent TOF, then prenatally, because there is, especially in atretic pulmonary atresia subsets, there won't be a adequate pulmonary blood flow. So ductus also doesn't receive much blood from pulmonary arteries to promote growth of this comoral diverticulum. So there may not be comoral diverticulum, but still the left subclavian artery is aberrant. There is a left ductus, so it still forms a vascular ring, even in the absence of comoral diverticulum. Comoral diverticulum is not a mandatory structure to be present to form a vascular ring. Left aberrant subclavian artery and left ductus are enough. And one concept which we should know is, if there is a single aortic arch, in a double aortic arch, we know that right and left both are surrounded by arches, so they can produce a vascular ring. But when there is, in the other cases, when there is a single aortic arch, whether on the right or on the left, the ductus has to be on the opposite side to produce a vascular ring. So this is one concept we should know. Otherwise, there won't be a vascular ring. And so absent diverticulum is seen in concurrent TOF. Even then, there will be a vascular ring. Now, clinical features. This is a loose ring because there is only a ligamentum arteriosum, unlike another aortic arch here. So it is looser than what we are seeing in a double aortic arch. So most of them are asymptomatic or only mildly symptomatic. And whenever they are symptomatic, they present later than double aortic arch. Double aortic arch, most of them present in neonatal period. Here they present in infant or toddler with dysphagia or stridor. What can happen to that aberrant subclavian artery, the comoral diverticulum, is there can be tortuosity of the aberrant subclavian artery in 5% of them. And even if it is tortuous, most of them are against asymptomatic. But if it is severely tortuous and rigid, in a minority of them, again you can have the symptoms. There can also be aneurysm formation in 8% of these comoral diverticulum, and 50% of these aneurysms rupture to produce death. That can be fatal. So diagnosis of this condition, barium esophagogram, as I said, is again of historic interest. Here we can see right-sided indentation because of the right aortic arch on esophagus, and there can also be sometimes bilateral indentations because of the left ductus. CT and MRI are better to delineate anatomy and to diagnose. Management, symptomatic, if the child is symptomatic, then division of arterial ligament, that is the left arterial ligament, is enough. But if there is also an aneurysm, as I said, more than 5 centimeter in diameter of the left subclavian proximal left subclavian artery or the comoral diverticulum, then surgical excision of that aneurysm should be done because 50% of them rupture. Now these two are very common. The next two conditions are quite rare, but still I'll just go through briefly. One is, because the more we study about this, the more we tend to get confused. Right aortic arch with left descending aorta, with or without aberrant left subclavian artery, and a left ductus arteriosus. See, here there is a right aortic arch and a left ductus arteriosus. This is enough to produce a vascular ring. Now what is happening here is, the aberrant, the descending aorta is on the left side now. In this condition, this is called a circumflex aorta. Now the arch is going on the right, the descending aorta is coming on the left side of the spine. So it says circumflex aorta. Here what happens?
Right aortic arch, normally there will be left descending aorta only, no? Like you left. Initially.
No, this is thoracic descending aorta. Right from the thoracic descending aorta only, it is on the left side.
Okay, okay.
What we see in the right aortic arch with mirror imaging is the right aortic arch goes up to the diaphragm and then becomes left,
Uh-huh.
somewhere near that. But here, even the thoracic aorta is to begin with, the descending aorta to begin with is on the left side.
Okay, it means it is remnant of left
I'll tell you.
aorta.
I'll tell you that.
Okay, okay.
I'll tell you that.
One more thing in
Right.
right aortic arch, first branch is that left carotid.
Which one in this?
Right. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Right
here
aortic
it is
arch.
the only. It is only the left carotid and not the left brachiocephalic here.
Okay, okay. So the brachiocephalic will always be separate in left right aortic arch.
Correct. There in the right aortic arch with mirror image branching, brachiocephalic artery only arises from the left on the left side. That is the first branch to arise from the arch. That will be the left brachiocephalic artery. Here, most commonly, it will be the left common carotid artery only and not the left brachiocephalic artery. I'm coming to it.
Okay, okay.
The right dorsal aorta, why it is like this, why this happens is the right dorsal aorta during development migrates leftward. So the right dorsal aorta that is forming the descending aorta is migrating leftward. So it forms the left descending aorta. And this left descending aorta goes behind the esophagus. And the distal left sixth arch again is forming the left ductus artery, as always. And left distal aorta regresses here. There are two conditions that can happen. One is the left dorsal aorta regresses with normal left fourth arch. See, for this subclavian artery to be connected to aorta, you need one of them at least. So left distal aorta regresses and left fourth aortic arch persists. What this will do is, as for all right aortic arches, left subclavian artery arises from left brachiocephalic, or there will be a formation of left brachiocephalic artery. If the left fourth aortic arch persists, but the left distal aorta regresses, this can lead to the formation of left brachiocephalic artery only. Okay, the more important structure for left subclavian artery to be a part of left brachiocephalic artery or to be closely associated with left common carotid artery is the left fourth aortic arch. Because the left fourth aortic arch can be normal and left distal aorta only regresses, so the left subclavian artery is a part of left brachiocephalic artery in that case. So the circumflex aorta can have either with or without aberrant left subclavian artery. So if this is arising from left brachiocephalic artery, then it is without aberrant left subclavian artery. If left fourth aortic arch regresses, but still left distal aorta persists, as in the Commerell's diverticulum, here left distal aorta persists, but left fourth arch regresses. As in that condition, here, if that happens, then there will be aberrant left subclavian artery from proximal descending aorta, just like how it happens in Commerell's diverticulum. But here, what is happening is that Commerell's diverticulum also can produce posteriorly, can be a part of the ring post on the posterior aspect. And also because this aorta is coursing posteriorly, even without that Commerell's diverticulum or the left aberrant subclavian artery, it can still produce a ring. Because on the posterior aspect, what you are having here is the leftward migration of the right distal aorta. So that is the left descending aorta. The arch goes posteriorly, so it forms the posterior part of the ring. So these both conditions can produce a ring. If there is a left aberrant subclavian artery, that is an added structure that is a part on the posterior aspect. And on the left, again, as we can see, there will be a left ductus. This right aortic arch becoming the left descending aorta, left thoracic descending aorta, happens in less than 10% of total right aortic arch. So it is quite rare, this producing a vascular ring. Associated CHDs, you can see a lot, 50% of them are associated with CHDs. And what associated CHD you can see is, there will be severe hypoplasia of that retroesophageal portion. Again, whatever portion is going behind the esophagus, there will be severe hypoplasia of that portion, and that can produce actually arch obstruction. Here there is no double aortic arch. So if that arch is getting atretic, or if that arch is hypoplastic, it will produce symptoms of arch obstruction. So clinical features actually, when they present early in neonatal period, they present with arch obstruction symptoms rather than a vascular ring symptoms. If they present late with respiratory symptoms, dysphagia, which are typical of vascular ring, then you have to suspect a vascular ring in them. And they present late. Now coming to diagnosis, chest X-ray show bilateral aortic knobs. The right is formed by the right transverse arch, and the left is formed by the left proximal descending aorta. So there can be bilateral aortic knobs on chest X-ray. CT and MRI, again, as in all cases of vascular ring, it is very important here also. And here it is important to differentiate this circumferential aortic arch, which can produce vascular ring and which can produce arch obstruction with a ring. So for arch obstruction, there has to be a hypoplastic arch. So that is very important to know in this subset of vascular ring patients. Now management, if there are ring symptoms, then division of arterial ligament itself, that alone is sufficient. So you can just take a left thoracotomy, go and divide the arterial ligament. That is sufficient to produce, to free the child of symptoms of a vascular ring. But if there is arch obstruction, again, you have to follow the path, what you follow for arch obstruction, and do the reconstruction that I am not going into detail. Now, one more cause of vascular ring that you may need to know is right aortic arch with retroesophageal left brachiocephalic artery. Here, left brachiocephalic artery is going posteriorly behind the esophagus. That is why retroesophageal brachiocephalic artery. Here you can see the brachiocephalic artery is going behind the esophagus. This is the left subclavian artery and this is the left common carotid artery. Both are arising behind the esophagus. Here what happens is distal right dorsal aorta persists, again produce. One more thing I forgot to tell you. Left aortic arch alone, if it is present, it produces vascular ring in probably 0 to 1% of vascular ring children. It is almost always produced by right aortic arch or double aortic arch. Double aortic arch is most common, followed by all the causes which I have said have a right aortic arch. So distal right dorsal aorta persists, which causes right aortic arch. Left fourth arch regresses. And so what happens is left seventh intercostal artery connects only to proximal descending aorta and not to the brachiocephalic artery in the normal position. So aberrant left subclavian artery from proximal descending aorta is coming. Now what also happens here is how it is different from a aberrant subclavian artery is the truncoaortic sacs connection with the left third arch also regresses here. Here we can see this connection with the ventral aorta or the truncoaortic sac regresses. The third arch and the truncoaortic sac regresses, and because this is freed here, this goes vertically like this, and this now is connected to the descending aorta. So this is also arising from the descending aorta now. So both aberrant left subclavian artery and left third arch meet to form aberrant left brachiocephalic artery from proximal descending aorta. Again, in this case, left distal arch persists because the aortic arch is right, the left ductus is on the left, and you have a posterior structure now, that is the brachiocephalic artery, a vascular ring is formed. Now excess flow also, again, as this is the principle of Commerle's diverticulum, because there is a left ductus which is causing excess flow into this aberrant subclavian artery origin, here aberrant brachiocephalic artery origin. So this can form a Commerle's diverticulum here also. Now it is a very rare anomaly associated. You may not remember. You need not remember all this. Clinical features, again, they can present as in other cases with respiratory symptoms or dysphagia. On 2D echo, what you can see is a right transverse aorta, but the left brachiocephalic artery you are not seeing from where it should arise. It arises usually from the descending aorta. The branch that is arising from the proximal descending aorta, usually when it is subclavian and common carotid that we see, it does not arise like that. From the descending aorta, one branch arises, which again divides into two. So that is the left brachiocephalic artery. MRI and CT again to delineate the anatomy better. Management here will be division of ductus on the left, because they can produce only a ring. And if they have, because of Commerle's diverticulum, if they have aneurysms, surgical resection of those aneurysms. Right aortic arch with common mirror image also can produce a vascular ring But what happens in right aortic arch? This can be commonly seen. Okay, right aortic arch with common mirror image associated with many congenital heart disease or also isolated. Isolated is very rare. It is usually associated with TOF with pulmonary atresia and our truncus arteriosus. What again happens here is left dorsal aorta regresses, so right aortic arch is formed. So these are the branches that arise from the right aortic arch. Left distal arch persists. So again, as I said, in any right aortic arch also, left ductus arteriosus is more common. That the insertion of left ductus arteriosus, as I had told you in the previous example, previous type of vascular ring also, here when the insertion is into the base of left brachiocephalic artery, the left subclavian artery. Okay, the more commonly the left ductus also, when it arises from in a right aortic arch, it is most commonly inserted into more than 80 to 90% of patients. It's inserted into the left subclavian artery or the left brachiocephalic artery. You can just say that left brachiocephalic artery, base of left brachiocephalic or left subclavian artery, where it is not producing a ring. But if it arises here, I have not shown that image. If it arises from the proximal descending aorta, in minority of these cases, it may arise like this from proximal descending aorta connecting to the left pulmonary artery. Then it again produces a vascular ring. So in those rare instances, it can produce a vascular ring. If it is inserting into descending aorta, it can produce a ring, which is very rare. But if very commonly it produces into base of left brachiocephalic artery, so no ring is formed. That is more common. So associated CHDs, as we know, that it is TOF plus pulmonary atresia, truncus arteriosus, tricuspid atresia, when they are associated with normally related great arteries, can have right aortic arch with mirror. This is common mirror image. What is true mirror image? I'm just telling you, this is not a cause of vascular ring, but right aortic arch with true mirror image will have ductus also on the right. So that can never produce a vascular ring, because the arch is also on the right, the ductus is also on the right. So that can never produce a vascular ring. So this is common mirror image because it is more commonly found, left ductus. So that is why it is called common mirror image. True mirror image is ductus also on the right. But the right aortic arch, when it is not associated with any congenital heart disease, they usually have a vascular ring, because if it is isolated, then only this ductus usually arises from the descending aorta. The embryological basis of that is not really known, but that is what it is. That is what is found. On chest X-ray, again, there will be, because of right aortic arch, there can be right tracheal indentation, arch-sidedness evaluation by echo, CT, MRI. Again, it's the same. Other causes of vascular ring is just the opposite of what I have discussed now. Counterparts of RA, right aortic arch, on the left side. They are very rare, 0 to 1% of all vascular rings, which is left aortic arch with retroesophageal diverticulum of Commerell, left aortic arch with or without aberrant right subclavian artery with right descending aorta and right ductus. I don't want to explain this because it's the same on the left side. Now coming to vascular sling, this is about vascular rings. Okay, these were all vascular rings which surrounds the trachea and esophagus completely. Now coming to vascular sling, there is only one vascular sling, that is the pulmonary artery sling, that is commonly described. Here what happens is left pulmonary artery arises from the right pulmonary artery instead of the main pulmonary artery. And because this left pulmonary artery is arising from the right pulmonary artery, in that course, it courses anterior to the, it courses posterior to the trachea and anterior to the esophagus. Between trachea and esophagus, it courses. And it compresses trachea and esophagus. MPA also abuts anterior trachea. So anterior, the trachea is abutted posteriorly by the left pulmonary artery, aberrant left pulmonary artery or the anomalous left pulmonary artery, and anteriorly by the main pulmonary artery. So again here, symptoms are more commonly respiratory because it is compressed from both the sides. There is no ring because trachea's left aspect is free. So the left aspect is free, so there is no vascular ring. It is associated with significant tracheal stenosis and maldevelopment of bronchial tree. This pulmonary artery sling is associated with significant tracheal stenosis. These symptoms are more commonly seen in this subset rather than the GI symptoms, because prenatally only there is so much severe compression of trachea. There will be postnatally significant tracheal stenosis and maldevelopment of the entire bronchial tree. There can be bronchi again can be bifurcated normally, which is called type 1 bifurcation or type 1 bronchial development or type 1 pulmonary artery sling also. Otherwise, in type 2, what happens is there will be a bridging bronchus extending from left bronchus, which is going to supply the right lung. That is called a bridging bronchus, just like any bridging collateral. So this right bronchus, in that also in type 2, again, you have two subsets where the right bronchus is supplying there is a right bronchus that is supplying only the right upper lobe, and the bridging bronchus is supplying the rest of the lung, or the entire bridging bronchus is supplying the entire lung, and there is no right bronchus only. In that case, the lung also is hypoplastic. The right lung can be hypoplastic. So in type 2, tracheal stenosis is common. Right bronchial stenosis is seen in 22% of patients, and tracheal rings are also seen in 38% of autopsy cases. Coming to the embryological basis of it, the left postbranchial artery. Postbranchial artery are the structures that give rise to distal pulmonary arteries. Only the proximal part of right, main pulmonary artery, the proximal parts of right and left pulmonary arteries only arise from proximal part of sixth aortic arch. Again, the distal part of sixth aortic arch is going to give ductus arteriosus. Now, where the distal segments of pulmonary arteries arise, from where? The postbranchial arteries. The left postbranchial artery fails to connect with the left sixth arch now, embryologically, but instead connects to the right sixth arch via right postbranchial artery. Right postbranchial artery is is arising normally from the right sixth arch. But because the left postbranchial artery is not arising from the left sixth arch, it is arising from the right sixth arch. And pulmonary artery sling is most commonly seen on the left side only. The left LPA arising from the RPA. RPA arising from LPA is extremely rare. You need not mention. So 10% of great artery anomalies in one of the autopsy studies that was done showed anomalous LPA origin. It could be from anything, LPA origin. So one of those origins is right pulmonary artery. Male to female ratio in pulmonary artery sling is 3:2. Again, they can have associated CHDs like VSD, ASD, PDA also, and left superior vena cava, persistent left superior vena cava, seen in 20%, 22% of patients. There can be an imperforate anus also, and especially in type 2 slings. Clinical features, most of them again are symptomatic, just like double aortic arch. Here also, most of them are symptomatic. Type 2 is more serious, as we can understand. The respiratory symptoms are more common, like stridor, pneumonia, respiratory failure, and 90% of them present in infancy, 10% in adolescence, just like double aortic arch. And diagnosis is made by X-ray, mediastinal shift to the left, because there can be hyperinflation because of obstructive emphysema of the right lung. That is one of the causes they have said, but because of obstruction, there can be collapse also. But more commonly, what is seen is mediastinal shift to the left. And also because left pulmonary artery is arising from right pulmonary artery, that may not be adequate enough to supply the left lung also. So mediastinal shift to left is more commonly seen on X-ray. Barium esophagogram, in contrast to vascular rings, is showing an anterior indentation here. This is the only condition where there is an anterior indentation on the esophagus. Bronchoscopy is not advised usually because there is a high risk of causing edema and worsening respiratory distress in these infants. CT and MRI themselves show they can help diagnose, and multi-slice CT, anatomy of pulmonary vasculature and bronchial anatomy can be well seen. Location and degree of tracheal and tracheobronchial stenosis should be noted on the CT, and whether the stenosis is focal or diffuse should be noted, because the management again depends on that. Again, it's a surgical management. Even the surgeries are associated with high morbidity and mortality. Anastomosis of left pulmonary artery should be done to main pulmonary trunk, first thing. That is for all pulmonary artery slings. And now when there is tracheal stenosis, you have to do a slide. If there is only a focal tracheal stenosis, you can do a slide tracheoplasty where you can just cut wherever there is stenosis, you can just transect at that level, and then make vertical incisions on the superior and inferior trachea and mobilize them towards each other, and then re-anastomose, just like resection and re-anastomosis. So that can be done if there is a focal stenosis. But if there is a diffuse long segment stenosis in trachea, then you have to use a pericardial patch to close that resection, or even a costal cartilage may be used, which is a cartilaginous structure. But in these cases, post-op results are also not very good. Post-op pulmonary artery stenosis rates are also very high. Pulmonary artery stenosis, if you are connecting it to pulmonary trunk because of various surgical maneuvers, pulmonary artery gets stenosed with almost 50% of them requiring reintervention. So this is about slings, rings and sling. There is only one sling. There are various rings.
Regarding this sling, current left pulmonary artery which is coming from right
pulmonary artery.
Is it anterior to the esophagus or posterior to the esophagus?
Anterior to the esophagus. Anterior to the esophagus, posterior to trachea. It is between esophagus and trachea. Between. So it is that left pulmonary artery compresses the posterior aspect of trachea, and the main pulmonary artery is compressing the anterior part of trachea. They can have esophageal symptoms also, but because the trachea is compressed so much, so severely, respiratory symptoms always predominate. And prenatally only they develop so much distortion of the tracheobronchial tree. So that itself leads to predominant respiratory symptoms at birth or in the neonatal period or even in infancy. But GI symptoms may be produced because it is still impinging on the anterior aspect of esophagus, but they are not. They never present with them. Okay. Okay. So double aortic arch we should know. Maybe we may also get double aortic arch as a question. That can be a long question. Just double aortic. If we know about double aortic arch and some embryological basis of individual structures, we can make this up somehow. But it's difficult to remember. I have read this some 3-4 times. It's still difficult to remember some structures. Okay, we may just because minutely one of the structures is very important for some postnatal structure, and we have to know that. Whatever I could understand, I have told you. So the individuals remembering the individual structures, developing onto individual postnatal structures is more important than knowing about the entire anomaly. Okay, the entire anomaly we should know about double aortic arch and probably pulmonary artery sling. That's all.
Gautam?
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Gautam.
I'm able to hear you. Tell me.
This thing, no? I wanted to ask you this right aortic arch with left brachiocephalic you mentioned, no? That can be called bovine arch?
Bovine arch, they have. No,
Bovine
this is arising from the descending aorta. This is arising much.
It has two brachiocephalics, no? Like, common origin of left common and left subclavian. So
correct.
Can we call that?
Or even sometimes, no, this is not called a bovine arch because here there is only one brachiocephalic artery, and on the right side there is a separate. The origins are separate for common carotid as well as subclavian artery. It is just like any right aortic arch, which has a right common carotid and right subclavian arising separately. And left brachiocephalic artery will be there in any right aortic arch. Just that left brachiocephalic artery is arising at the proximal descending aorta, and it is coursing posterior to the esophagus. That is why it is producing a ring.
Okay.
Instead of arising anterior to the trachea, it is arising posterior to the esophagus, anatomically speaking, in terms of this thing. But there is no. I mean, there are no two brachiocephalic arteries.
Okay.
It is just like the visual appearance will be the same, no? Correct. Any right aortic arch. I don't know.
This 4 vessel test you told this is important. to differentiate
Ah.
between double aortic arch and right aortic arch.
Right aortic arch with mirror image pattern, especially if the left aortic arch is atretic.
Atretic,
Because
the same.
correct.
Almost look
Correct.
the
Correct. On echo, they'll look the same. Especially on the long axis view, it'll look the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And like one more thing which would help us is basically the way PDA is directed, they say, basically.
Yeah. Correct.
PDA will be directed towards the pulmonary artery in right aortic arch, but it will be actually directed in double aortic arch, the diverticulum of ductus diverticulum.
The pulmonary artery origin you are saying?
No, ductal diverticulum.
Correct.
Patients with right aortic arch with mirror imaging, it will be facing the pulmonary artery, no? It will be facing towards the pulmonary artery, but in patients with double aortic arch, it will actually be not the pulmonary artery, it will be remnants. They say these two are the usual differentiating features. I think it's given in Arthur Anderson, one of these books only.
About the ductus also. Okay. Because sometimes in right aortic arch with common mirror image also, what happens is ductus can still go to the proximal descending aorta. As I said, that is a very rare cause of vascular ring.
Yeah, but common.
In that ductus configuration will be similar to double aortic arch. That is what I feel. But more commonly, as you said, more commonly the configuration will be different. Correct. Yes.
Some books give this ductal aortic arch to be classified into type 1, 2, 3, where they say that one is mirror imaging.
Okay.
Left-sided
ductus.
Left apparent subclavian artery, and 3, I think, I'm not sure what 3 is. But
Okay.
arch with aberrant left subclavian artery is more common than actually mirror type, they say. Yeah. Correct. Anyways, there is some.
Okay.
Few last year.
Now, one more thing is, if you want to discuss some other arch anomalies, again you can discuss more arch anomalies are there. I didn't go into them because it was only about rings. No.
I think
we can just know the embryological origin of all the structures, and we can do whatever. Because knowing all the anomalies is very difficult. Remembering them.
See, this
entirely is difficult.
Aims, this Saurabh Gupta is there, right? So he is basically published some 2-3 articles on persistence of fifth aortic arch. Basically,
there is that's a condition, but it doesn't produce vascular ring.
It doesn't.
But there is a persistent fifth aortic arch. It is mentioned in Moss. It is there in Moss.
Oh yeah, that's what they have. I mean, it's an elusive thing. It's nobody has.
Yeah. It cannot be proved.
Yeah.
Like you cannot be sure that it's the fifth aortic arch, but they have somehow tried to hypothesize that it is the fifth aortic arch. Correct. And it is persisting. Correct. Okay.
I think.
Gautam.
What nonsense?
Gautam.
I
don't have anything. I don't have anything to add. But amazing presentation. I think you really. And what was self-explanatory about it, Gautam? Exactly.
No. The origin. That's what I said. The origin of those structures is what we should know most.
Yeah. No. I think it's more of your explanation than this one. Amazing. Very nice. Really enjoyed it.
Okay. Thank you.
Actually.
Huh?
Would you recorded it? I said. I think you'll need.
I will. Yeah. We'll have to need a refresher. Rebroadcast it later.
I need to see. I'll have stuff.
So you'll present with. Tomorrow altogether. You say no.
Yeah. I need an hour and a half. I think because there are some 5 topics. All 5 questions in CT.
I was at OCT, right? All 3 were asked. And
no. So no. Tomorrow only CT, CTFFR, CT CAG, all that.
Okay.
Structural CT, things like that. And so I was OCT. I'll do it next week. Anytime you want me to do it.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So about tomorrow, Arun and I will go and we'll see what we can get. I'm not very optimistic about it, but I hope. I'll ask.
Seems like Arun knows somebody, so. Maybe.
That's what. So we'll go meet whom he's saying. Let him do the talking. We'll see.
Okay. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.